Maritime Made on Eastlink TV is presented in partnership with Nova Scotia Business Inc., Nova Scotia's business development agency.
There was a time when all a home's furniture would have been made of wood. Today, much of our furniture is of the disposable nature. At Lake City Woodworkers in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, they're still a little old-fashioned and believe that furniture should provide a lasting quality. The first thing you'll notice when you enter the showroom is the vast selection of quality furniture. From dining tables, to beds, to blanket boxes. Once a customer orders a piece of furniture, a cut list is generated that will follow the item through the entire construction process. Every piece of furniture at Lake City starts off as a simple, rough plank of wood. The most common wood used here is basswood, cut from Nova Scotia woodlots. Basswood has a nice grain, is easy to work with, and contains few knots. The first step is to plane each plank of wood on both sides. The planer gives the wood a nice smooth finish and a uniform thickness from which the workers can work from. Once the wood has been planed, it moves to the radial arm saw. Here, a worker cuts the wood to the length desired for each specific customer project. The pieces are all cut a little longer than required to allow for further processing. Any boards that are wider than 4 inches are usually cut to thinner widths on the inline saw. Wider boards tend to warp over time, so unless the project calls for extra wide planks, they're cut thinner and then glued into wider panels. Once the planks have been cut, they move on to the joiner, where a worker cuts the edges to make them straight and smooth. This will prepare them for gluing. The pieces are next sent to the panel rack, where they are glued, then arranged and clamped into panels, and left to dry. The panels, which are different sizes depending on what project they're for and which part of a piece of furniture they're for, are a little longer and wider than required to allow for further processing. Once the panels are dry, they move to the planer sander machine. This is a state-of-the-art piece of machinery that first planes the surface, then sands it using 2 different grits of sandpaper. Once the panel has been through this machine about 12 times, the surface will be smooth and even. Once the panels are smooth, they're ready to be properly cut to the required length and width. First, one edge is run through the joiner. This gives the carpenter a straight edge to work from. Next, the panel is moved to the table saw and cut to the exact required width. The straight edge is used against the fence. Once the panel is cut to the correct width, it's moved to the crosscut saw, where it's cut to the correct length, using the straight edge to ensure the panel is completely square. Panels can be used for a variety of parts on all the furniture created by Lake City Woodworkers. Now the panels are square and cut to the exact required length. They move to the Kregger, a machine that drills pocket holes. Pocket holes are used to discreetly screw the various panels together. The panels are now ready to be assembled. Here, a worker is building a blanket box. The side panels are first lightly sanded, glued, then lined up and screwed into place. Once the bottom and sides of the box have been attached, it's time to add the legs. Using a custom jig, the legs are first glued, then screwed onto the box. A jig is used to ensure that pieces are attached in the same place every time. The trim pieces that will hide all the pocket holes are then glued and gently nailed into place. Finally, the carpenter adds hinges to the lid panel, again with a jig, and then attaches the lid to the box. Finally, the soft close is added to ensure no one hurts themselves when closing the lid. Once the piece of furniture is fully assembled, it's time to take it upstairs to the finishing area. That's done using an elevator. Upstairs is where each piece of furniture is inspected and stained. But first, the piece of furniture needs to be disassembled into its component parts. This is done to ensure proper coverage of any stain or finish that'll be applied, as well as to catch any dents or other imperfections. Once the piece is taken apart, the hardware is safely labeled and stored until needed. Next, the furniture is checked for dents, scratches, and imperfections. Small dents will be removed using water and a hot iron. This will relax the wood fibers and will make the dent disappear. Scratches are sanded out, and other imperfections are filled with wood filler and will be sanded once dry. Finally, the piece is completely sanded to ensure the stain covers evenly. Once the parts are ready, they're taken to the staining room. Here, a worker stains every piece of furniture using a spray gun. The color of stain will be dependent on the customer's order. Once sprayed, the stain is rubbed in and the piece is left to dry. Once dry, it's sprayed with a protective coat and left to dry again before being lightly sanded. Finally, the piece is sprayed with a top coat, left to dry, and reassembled. The result is a beautifully handcrafted piece of furniture that will last for generations.
Maritime Made is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc. because great things are happening.